Building in public has been taking the internet by storm, and it's a relatively new concept that has really popped up in the past few years. Today, I'm going to break down what is building in public and where did it come from. Then I'm going to talk about the 4 big reasons why I believe building in public is a game changer, both for businesses and business owners, but also for aspiring entrepreneurs that haven't started a business yet. And last but not least, at the end of the video, I'm going to share my personal story on why I decided to build Wealth Potion in public and what you can gain from some of the build in public updates that I share here on this channel. So without further ado, let's dive in. First and foremost, what is building in public? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Entrepreneurs, creators, makers, indie hackers are building their businesses in public. In other words, they are sharing transparently and openly a lot about their business. A lot of things, by the way, that you would not hear from business owners even 10, 20 years ago. This new movement is encouraging entrepreneurs, especially online, to be sharing a lot more about their business. Not just their wins and why their business is so great and why you need to be a customer, but their losses, the lessons that they've learned, the things that they're trying, the experiments that they're running, even the ones that failed. You're getting to see a much more transparent view into what it is like to be that business owner or creator or maker. If you're not too familiar with this concept, here are a few examples I recommend checking out. Perhaps the most prominent name in the indie hacker slash solopreneur community is a guy named Peter Levels. He goes by levels.io and he posts a lot on Twitter slash X, and he talks very openly about his businesses. You can see here in his Twitter profile, he shares the revenue of all of his businesses. And this, by the way, is a trend you'll see. A lot of indie hackers and solopreneurs will do something similar where they'll share their revenue openly into the public. That's a sign that you found an entrepreneur that is building in public. Another wonderful example that I'd highly recommend you check out is Arvid Kahl. He runs a newsletter called The Bootstrapped Founder, but he also has a software business called Podscan. And not only does he share, metrics and growth stats, he shares very, very openly on his podcast, for example, the trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur. In fact, I've been following him for long enough before he even started Podscan. So he actually talks about the thought process of what it's like to go from running a newsletter business and then moving back into solopreneurship and software development, which is where his roots come from. And so Arvid, I think, is a great example of an entrepreneur that's not just sharing metrics, which is of course part of the build in public movement, but is also sharing a much more genuine and authentic side of entrepreneurship. And quite frankly, entrepreneurship is really hard, and that's one of the reasons I'll get into in just a moment on why building in public is so valuable. And last but not least, this is a bit more of an adjacent example, but Naval Ravikant talks very openly online on how he sees entrepreneurship changing over the next years and decades to come. And he's been a very prescient writer and philosopher, if you will, online. And one of his great tweets is about authenticity. And again, we're going to touch on this on the 4 reasons why I think building in public is valuable. But I love this tweet. Naval says you can escape competition through authenticity. And I think in an era where AI is automating and commoditizing so much more of our work lives, authenticity and humanity is going to be a huge differentiator. All right, so those are a few examples, and that gives you a high-level view of what building in public is. So specifically, what are the reasons why I think it's such a game changer? Whether you're a business owner already or if you aspire to become a business owner in the near future. The first reason is also the reason I think is most important if you are a first-time founder, and that is that building in public is a form of sales and marketing. As I've shared in the past, I've spent close to 10 years in B2B tech startups across primarily sales and marketing. And so I speak with and consult with a lot of young entrepreneurs that are starting their first startup or business venture. And the most common mistake I hear from them is that they underestimate the importance of sales. A lot of young entrepreneurs have somewhat fallen for this myth of build it and they will come. I'm sorry to report that build it and they will come is a lie, because even if you have the best product in the world since sliced bread, No one is going to become a customer if they don't know that you exist. And that's what sales and marketing is all about. Unfortunately, a lot of young founders have a bit of a distaste for the concept of sales. It feels grimy and sleazy, and I've talked about this on the channel. You can check this video out here. And so building in public is super powerful for that first-time founder because it transforms this somewhat dirty word of sales into sharing and helping others by being transparent about your business. To be super clear here, building in public is not automatically going to translate into sales, and it might not apply to every single type of business, right? If your business sells to hospitals and hospital owners don't follow you on social media, then building in public is not going to be a form of sales and marketing. However, if there is any overlap with your audience online and the potential customers you want to attract, then building in public is an amazing way to kind of bootstrap that early sales and marketing muscle, especially for first-time founders. And we are just scratching the surface. That is the first kind of basic reason why building in public is so great. The second one has to do with luck. And we're going to come back now to Naval Ravikant. Another brilliant tweet by Naval is where he talks about luck and he breaks it into 4 major types of luck. A lot of people think of luck as random chance. And Naval talks about how that's one kind of luck, which he calls blind luck. But there's also luck from hustling, by putting so much work out there, by putting out so many reps, by putting yourself out into the world more often, you are going to increase your surface area for luck. And that is a huge benefit of building in public. The third type of luck he mentions is luck from preparation. So being prepared for when opportunities do happen to find you so that you can take advantage of them. And building in public has a bit of that. I'm going to talk about this actually in the next reason. But the fourth type of luck I think is most related to building in public, which is luck by reputation. Naval uses the example of an undersea treasure diver. Imagine you happen to be really skilled at undersea treasure diving. If somebody finds an underwater treasure chest, not everybody is going to be able to go dive and attain that treasure. And so by being known, by not just having a skill, but by being known and having a reputation for that very unique skill, you're going to be one of the first people to be contacted about that underwater treasure. And that's what Naval describes as luck from reputation. So again, by building in public, by shouting from the rooftops and saying, hey everyone, I'm building this thing to solve this problem, you're increasing your hustle luck because you're just putting more out there into the world, but you're also slowly but surely building a reputation around being known to solve this problem. So that when someone else has that problem, they'll think, oh, I know someone that could solve this problem. And you're more likely to achieve that luck. Now, the third reason, as I just mentioned, is somewhat related to luck from preparation. Many companies, once they hit a certain level of scale, will have a board of directors. These are industry experts or investors or advisors to the company that will meet with the leadership of the company generally every quarter to hear how the company is doing and to receive reports on the company's performance and then share feedback with the leadership team so that they can course correct or double down or ensure that the business is meeting its goals. Now, again, it's important to note that this really only occurs in larger businesses. Publicly traded companies, for example, all have a board of directors. But a startup might not. And if you're a first-time founder, you might not have a board of directors. My argument here is that building in public becomes your board of directors. You are creating a community of people that aren't necessarily your customers, but they're people that are interested enough to follow your journey that you can use to gather feedback from. But perhaps most importantly is it becomes a vehicle for accountability. There was one startup I was at recently, and the CEO was telling me about their board meetings, and I was helping prepare one of their board decks. It's a slide deck that the leadership team would go through with the board. And the board deck was hundreds of slides. And I asked the CEO, I said, there's no way you get through hundreds of slides with the board. Like, what's the point of doing all this? This is so much work for the entire company. And the CEO told me, you're right, Brandon, we don't cover this slide deck. In fact, we probably cover 10% of the slides, if that. But the value is in preparing the slides. By forcing the entire company to be accountable to getting their slides ready, to knowing how their department is doing, and report on that performance to share their wins and their losses, that is where the value is. It doesn't matter if it gets presented or not. And so that's my argument for building in public as well. Even if 0 people read your tweets or watch your videos, the act of understanding your business well enough to share it openly is the value of building in public. And so for any entrepreneurs out there that are trying to build in public and you're getting frustrated or disheartened because you have so few followers and no one's replying to your tweets, I'm telling you, there is still value in what you're doing. And this is a concept we will talk about more on this channel shortly. Last but not least, the fourth reason why building in public is so valuable is it's a way to give back. I listen to a lot of podcasts, probably too many podcasts, but one of the most impactful podcast episodes I listened to in 2024 was an episode of the MoneyWise podcast with Mike Beckham. He's the CEO and co-founder of Simple Modern, which is a consumer brand that does, I believe, over 8 figures of revenue every single year, if not 9 figures of revenue. So very successful business, very successful entrepreneur. And he talks about how not only does he give away a significant portion of his income to charity, but his business, Simple Modern, has been giving away a proportion of their revenue since day one. And he talks about how giving is a muscle. It's something that you need to train early because you'll always be able to make excuses down the line on why maybe you shouldn't give this year, or maybe it's better to reinvest that money into the business. He also shares a quick story to make this really tangible. He says that when he was first starting out, he was working at a non-for-profit, he was making like $30,000 a year, and he was meeting with a younger student for lunch because this younger student wanted to ask him about his startup. And he had no money at this time, but he still paid for that $7 lunch for that student, even though he was struggling financially. And the reason he gave in this interview was he is never going to get that opportunity back to share and to give in that moment. And so, again, I want to apply this to building in public, because building in public, if you're first starting out on your business, you might think, what is the point? My business isn't that successful yet. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to listen to me. All these excuses. And I think similarly, we're not talking about giving away money here, but giving away your knowledge and sharing what you're learning, that is also a muscle that you should build early. And that's where I think building in public can be extremely valuable. It's a way to give back to others that will follow in your footsteps. Now, last but not least, I promised I would share why personally I have been building in public. I've touched on this lightly in other videos, but long story short is that my fiance was also working in B2B tech full-time. And when we moved to South Korea, she decided to quit her job and go all in on her own business. She completely bet on herself. And throughout the course of that next year, she was able to replace her income from her full-time job. And she's now doing what she loves to do every single day, and she's making good money doing it. One of the biggest reasons why I was able to start Wealth Potion was because I had the privilege of seeing all of her ups and downs. I got to see her entire journey, from the idea in her mind to the worries that she had, to the first wins and successes, to the first contract she got, all the way to where she is now, which is a very successful content creator. However, not everyone gets that point of view. Not everyone has a partner or a close friend where they can see the entire journey from start to finish. And that's what I want to share through my business. I have a lot of grand plans for Wealth Potion, and we are just getting started. So if you're watching this video and you've made it this far and you're already subscribed, thank you, because that means you're one of our early followers, and I genuinely appreciate your support. And if you're new here, I'll share a little bit about how I'm building in public. Perhaps most importantly is through the newsletter. I have a Wealth Potion newsletter, which currently goes out once every week, where I break down some sort of entrepreneurship, finance, or wealth focused topic. And at the end of every weekly newsletter, I include a build in public update where I share some of the goals I have for the business, how Wealth Potion is tracking towards those goals, and then I openly talk about some of the things that I'm struggling with and the decisions that I'm making and how I am changing the business as I go on. I don't expect everyone to read the build in public update, but even if 1 or 2 of you out there is thinking about starting their own YouTube channel or their own newsletter or their own media business, and they get value from that build in public update, then my time was worth it. So I want to end this video off by saying thank you again if you've watched all the way through. Approximately 30% of you watch videos all the way to the end. So if you do, you're a real one. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you next time.